They were one of those families who lived quietly, never drawing attention to themselves. No grand ambitions, no loud dreams, yet their days were filled with peace and warmth. From the outside, their life looked simple, almost ordinary, but within that simplicity lived a deep and genuine happiness. Their home was not filled with noise, but with understanding, patience, and silent love. Every morning, the father woke up at the same time. In the quiet hours of dawn, he dressed carefully, trying not to wake his daughter, and left for work. The mother began her mornings with their child. She held her daughter's hand and walked her to school, speaking softly along the way about life. Small things, but important ones. Sometimes she spoke about kindness, sometimes about patience, sometimes simply about being a good human being. To the child, these were just words, but to the mother, every sentence felt like a farewell wrapped in advice. Their entire world revolved around that little girl. Every plan, every hope, every dream they had was tied to her future. When she laughed, the house felt brighter. When she cried, their hearts felt heavy. The girl was still very young. She never left her mother's side, always hiding in her arms when she felt afraid. Sitting on her father's shoulders and laughing freely was her greatest joy. She knew nothing of life's cruelty, nothing of loss or pain. For her, the future meant nothing more than tomorrow's games. But her parents often sat together in silence at night, thinking about who she would become, what kind of life awaited her, and whether she would be happy in a world that could be so unforgiving. Yet, deep inside the mother's heart, there was a secret she shared with no one. In recent months, she had grown weaker. Tasks that once felt easy now exhausted her. Sometimes she would hold her daughter close and suddenly feel her eyes fill with tears for no clear reason. In those moments, she stared at her child's face for too long, as if trying to memorize every detail. The father noticed. He watched the color fade from his wife's face and felt a growing fear inside him. But every time he asked, she forced a smile and said, "I'm just tired, that's all." But it wasn't simple fatigue. Eventually, they went to see a doctor. White walls, a cold scent, and a heavy silence filled the room. The doctor slowly flipped through the test results. Each page turned felt like another tightening of their hearts. The father held his wife's hand tightly, as if letting go meant losing her forever. Then the doctor spoke quietly. His voice was calm, but his words struck like thunder. The illness was severe. There was almost no cure. And time? Time was painfully short. The mother remained silent. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She simply looked at her husband. In her eyes, there was less fear and more pleading, as if she were silently saying, "Please, don't let our daughter be alone after I'm gone." The father felt himself breaking inside. In that moment, he understood one terrible truth. He was going to lose his wife. But what frightened him even more was the uncertain future waiting for their daughter. After the doctor left the room, a heavy silence remained. It felt as if hours had passed, though only minutes slipped by. They sat there without speaking, barely even looking at one another. Each of them carried thousands of unspoken words in their hearts. The father stared out the window, while the mother rested her hands on her knees and took a slow, careful breath. Finally, the mother broke the silence. Her voice was barely above a whisper, yet its meaning carried the weight of a lifetime. "Please, don't let our daughter be alone." These were not just words. They were a plea, a promise, a final wish. That sentence etched itself into the father's heart and became something he would carry for the rest of his life. He nodded silently, but deep inside him, a decision had already begun to take shape. Sometime later, they decided to go on the sea trip they had planned long before. On the surface, it seemed like an ordinary decision, but beneath it lay something much deeper. Perhaps it would be their last joyful memory together. Perhaps it would become a beautiful story they would one day tell their daughter, proof that their parents had once been truly happy. They left their daughter with relatives. The little girl wrapped her arms tightly around her mother's neck, holding on longer than usual. The mother gently stroked her hair, already feeling the pain of farewell in her heart. The father noticed, but said nothing. When the ship set sail, everything seemed calm. The sea was quiet, the sky was clear, and the air felt light. People laughed, took photos, and enjoyed the moment. It felt like a simple cruise. Yet the mother leaned against the railing, staring far into the distance. Her gaze was not fixed on the sea, but on the future. The father watched her closely. His heart sensed something was wrong, but he couldn't put a name to it. Then, in a single moment, everything changed. The wind suddenly grew stronger. Dark clouds swallowed the sky. Waves rose higher and higher. The ship began to shake violently. People lost their balance. Children cried in fear. Some screamed while others prayed desperately for help. And then, disaster struck. The hull of the ship cracked with a terrifying sound. Freezing water rushed inside. People ran desperately toward the lifeboat, each fighting to save their own life. But soon, a horrifying truth became clear. The lifeboat could carry only one person. The husband and wife found themselves facing each other in the water. This was not an ordinary glance. In that look lived all the years they had shared, all the unspoken words, all the forgiveness, and most of all, their daughter. The father thought to himself, if I sink, my wife will survive, but she will pass away soon anyway. Our daughter would be left completely alone. That thought pushed him toward a decision he would carry forever. The mother already understood everything. There was no fear in her eyes, only one silent plea, their child. She looked at him without speaking, begging him with her gaze. 1 second. Just one single second. In that moment, the father made the most terrifying decision of his life. He pushed his wife aside and climbed into the lifeboat. Everyone froze. Some screamed. Some cursed him. To most people, the scene looked like betrayal, cowardice, an unforgivable act. The woman remained in the water. As she sank, she looked at her husband one last time. With the little strength she had left, her lips moved, and only one sentence escaped. Protect our daughter. And then the sea swallowed everything in silence. Then the sea fell silent. Even the waves seemed to understand the tragedy that had just taken place. It was as if the ocean itself chose silence in the face of that decision. The father survived, but at that very moment, something inside him broke forever. He was breathing, his heart was beating, yet the man he used to be no longer existed. A weight settled in his soul, one that would last a lifetime. He returned home. His daughter ran toward him, smiling, wrapping her small arms around his neck. The father held her tightly, his heart shattering in silence. Her mother was gone, and he knew that no words could ever fill that emptiness. The girl asked every day, "When will Mom come back?" Every day she stared at the window. Every day she waited. And every day the father remained silent. He could not tell the truth, because he knew no one would truly understand it. Some truths, when spoken, do not heal. They only deepen the pain. Years passed. The father raised his daughter with endless love. He watched every step she took, felt every pain she felt. When she fell, his heart fell with her. When she smiled, he silently thanked life for sparing at least her happiness. He never built another family, not because he feared love, but because his life had one purpose: to never let his daughter feel alone. He did not choose happiness. He chose sacrifice. People never forgave him. They called him a coward. They whispered that he had abandoned his wife to save himself. And he stayed silent. He never defended himself, because he knew sometimes the heaviest punishment is carrying the truth alone. Every night he faced his conscience. Every night the sea returned in his dreams. Cold water, darkness, a final glance. Every morning he woke up alive, but never free. Eventually, even time defeated him. The father passed away quietly, unnoticed, just as he had lived his life. While cleaning the house, his daughter found an old, yellowed notebook inside a wooden chest. It was her father's handwriting. Her hands trembled as she read. "Before we boarded the ship, the doctor told me my wife had very little time left. I was ready to drown in her place, but then I thought about our daughter. She would lose her mother anyway. If she lost me too, she would be completely alone. So I chose people's hatred. I did not choose my wife. I chose my daughter's future." The girl closed the notebook. Tears fell, but this time not from pain. Now she understood. Sometimes true love does not look like heroism. Sometimes it looks like silence that lasts a lifetime. Sometimes it is carrying hatred without explanation. And sometimes it is loving someone enough to never defend their name.